Hear ye, hear ye. Suns win 125-116 over the Dallas Mavericks on a Sunday afternoon. It's hard to know exactly how to feel after the Suns win over the Mavericks. Every victory is a gift. You take it, you appreciate it, and you move forward. And we've seen enough heartbreak this season to understand what the alternative is. So 125-116. But context matters. This is a team that the Suns are chasing in the standings, a team so depleted by injuries that comparing them to the French front in World War I might be generous. And yet the Suns didn't impose their will, they merely outlasted a skeleton crew. The final score suggests a comfortable win, but if you watched, you saw the same careless mistakes, the same porous perimeter defense, the same maddening. I'm maddened. The same lack of urgency that's haunted them all season. This wasn't dominance, it was survival. Not a testament to their ability, but to their availability. And that, more than anything, is why, at least in this case, Matthew, this victory kind of feels hollow to me. Am I alone there, or is this something you're walking away going, the fist is pumped a little bit, the corner's been changed, we've had two good games, one against the Clippers where we won, one against Denver where we lost, and this one's another victory. I mean, 2-1 in week 20. How you feeling?
There's definitely a lot of holes still. You just don't know how to celebrate these ones right now. You don't. You kind of just want to get one victory at a time, really moving forward. I spoke about in the last pod that this team is probably going to kind of buy us in towards the end of the season by playing hard, competing more, trying to end these games to where we're not getting blown out by 10 or 12 points. I'm just kind of just sitting back from afar, being like, you know what? All right, got the victory. Now what are they, 1.5 games behind? The Mavericks for the 10th, one game.
Oh yeah, 1.5.
1.5. So, if we can get in there, great. If not, then great too. You know what I mean? It's just, you don't really know how to feel about the season. I love the energy though. It has been picked up in the last 3 or 4 games. So that's good to see at least.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And, this is going to be the script moving forward is there's tough competition that lies before us. And the Suns are going to have to play with the energy that we've seen over the last 3 games. Now, again, lackadaisicalness was their enemy in this one. Turnovers, as per usual with Phoenix, kept the Mavericks around. And we know that as time progresses over the last, 18 games now? Is it 18? We're 30 and 34. That's 64. Yeah, 18 games left. We're going to have to play with that night in, night out, quarter after quarter, possession after possession, in order for this team to stand any chance to go to the play-in. And that's something that we'll ask a little bit later in this podcast, is whether or not you'll think that they're going to make the play-in. So welcome everybody to another edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. Whether you're watching along live or watching later, thanks for doing so. And if you're listening to the podcast, appreciate you lending us your ears for about the next hour as we talk about the Phoenix Suns as they played the Dallas Mavericks on a Sunday afternoon here in March, which kind of brought me back a little bit. It brought me back to when we first got Kevin Durant, the first game that he came and played with us, part of that 8-0 run to end the season with Kevin Durant in the lineup was an afternoon game against Luka Doncic and the Mavericks, and it came down to a great play at the end by Kevin Durant. And here we are just a couple years later. Obviously, Dallas has completely changed the face of how they look in just recent months, and the Suns are fighting to be the 10th seed. So a lot of different things to process here, but make sure you subscribe, rate, review wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast. If you happen to be on Instagram, throw a thumbs up over there in the Instagram chat. I'm monitoring it, and crack them if you got them, my friends. I've got this delicious Kona Brewing blonde ale IPA. You hear that? It's crisp like the islands themselves. Aloha.
Podcast, shooting the shit about the Suns since 2019.
That's right, Suns fans. A win, 2-1 in our last 3 games. Holy shit. It's all turned around, isn't it? It's all coming around. Brings my first question.
Matthew, I've got to ask.
Matthew, I've got to ask. This ain't the matchup that ESPN thought it was going to be when they scheduled it, is it?
No, not at all.
Like, holy shit,
A
man.
lot. I mean, I think next weekend we're playing, I think at noon on Sunday or Saturday again. So we'll be in these. We'll be in the primetime slots, Friday nights, Thursday nights, Saturdays, Sundays, heading into the end of the season, unless they kind of move us, depending on how our season goes. And if
I'm
we
surprised
kinda
this didn't
take it
get
from-
flexed, in all honesty. Like,
I'm
Cleveland's
surprised-
playing Milwaukee today.
The only reason maybe they want to show it is because they can show Nico hiding in the tunnels away from everybody else and hiding from the fans back there because he can't sit in his own seat without getting something shot in the back of his head. So I'm pretty sure he has to stand backstage, and that's why they probably have it on ESPN. It's when you look at the like the pre or the game before where they show like who's coming up next, right? In this game they have Klay Thompson and then Kevin Durant.
Yes.
And it's going to get as bad as if they lose Klay Thompson. They're going to put Jason Kidd up there as their coach because that happens a lot too, where
Just
a team
Nico.
doesn't have a star, so let's put the coach there. So it's different. Obviously, the way this NBA has changed for the better. But it looks like the Mavericks, with 7 men playing, they might have a chance to end the lottery now. So it's totally different team right now.
Yeah, it is strange how Nico Harrison's always just kind of standing in the tunnel. They need to have it. Like, have you ever been to Phoenix Arena, PHX Arena, whatever the fuck that they American West Arena?
PHX,
Have you ever been there during a concert and they have like the blackout curtains?
Yeah.
They need to have a blackout curtain over the tunnel, and then like Nico's just kind of peeking around behind it, trying to watch the game from afar, like where you can't see shit.
They do that for like the Mercury, right? Don't they have like the blackout curtains for like half? They take out those stands, I think, behind one of the baskets.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but it would be interesting to see them do that. Yeah, this is, I mentioned it before. Do you remember the game I was referencing? Kevin Durant, Luka Doncic, 2 years ago. It was a big, big win for the Phoenix Suns at the time, and just was an epic Sunday afternoon game. And then this one is slotted in there for obvious reasons, right? The Dallas, Phoenix. There's a rivalry between Luka. And Devin Booker. There's Kyrie and Katie. There's a ton of storylines between these two franchises, and it's just completely, they pull up the score as the game begins, and it's just like 10th seed in the West versus 11th seed in the West. And it's like, ew, gross.
Yeah.
And poor Dallas, man. I mean, I can't go as far to say poor Dallas. Let me ask you this question: do you have more empathy? What's the way I want to phrase this question? Like, I feel bad for Dallas for everything that's gone on, but also I hate Dallas. So like, I don't. So does that outweigh how much you hate the Lakers for getting Luka? I guess is my question. Do you feel more sorry for Dallas, or do you hate LA more?
I don't really feel sorry for Dallas. So the way I feel about Dallas is I feel like they kind of lost their luster in a way. And I think that's why kind of Luka had to be moved. They didn't seem like an exciting team with Luka, right? Like they got to the finals, obviously, but they weren't everyone's favorite pick going into the playoffs last year to make the finals, and they did. I think it's the same thing this year. If they were to have Luka, you'd be like, it's an okay matchup, right? We have Luka who's just going to take over and probably defeat the Suns. He always does, right? He always takes over against Devin Booker, outshines him in a way. Now it's just like they're so depleted, but it's like they haven't been this way in a while, right? So I'm actually thinking, I was listening to Bill Simmons, and he was like, they're going to win the lottery, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. If this whole thing is planned out, where it's like, hey, Nico, if you can just get rid of Luka, send him to LA, get our ratings back up, take over the Super Bowl to where no one even gave a fuck about the Super Bowl for about a week there, then we'll give you the number 1 pick. So I don't want to get too far into like, hey, I feel sorry for this team yet, because I know something else is going to happen. I know Anthony Davis obviously had a good 4 minutes there in Dallas until he went down. But everyone knew when they got him, he wasn't going to last. The Kyrie thing, it sucks, but he got hurt. He probably won't play next year too with the ACL, right? So now I just think it's going to be a rebuilding process. So I don't want to say anything because I feel like they might have a chance at Cooper Flag. And I don't want that to happen, because if that happens, then I'm like, are you fucking serious? I feel like everyone now has seen that coming.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And like, I don't feel bad for Dallas fans, I guess. And this is part of my personal fandom. It's part of where I sit on the spectrum of NBA fandom. Is there's no mercy, right? Like, I would have mercy for Dallas fans, and I know some Dallas fans, and I know what they're going through. And I've seen it in real time. If you go to mavsmoneyball.com, which is Bright Side of the Sun's sister site on SB Nation, they've done a great job covering the pain that they're going through. But at the same time, I don't think I have pity or empathy for them because of what I've had to deal with as a Suns fan with Mavericks fans and how unlikable they've become. I mean, I don't know. They've been dicks for a long, long time. Let me just put it that
Yeah,
before
they
social
have.
media,
Yeah,
they were even dicks, back in
yeah,
'06. And I'll never forgive Jerry Stackhouse for breaking Joe Johnson's orbital bone back in
yeah.
whatever game that was in the semifinal round in 2005. Like, these are long, deep-seated roots, and I'm defined by my hate of other organizations. The Spurs I can't stand, the Mavs I can't stand, and the Lakers I can't stand. And I think that that's one of the most frustrating things with this whole thing is the fact that the winner out of all this gets to be LA ... again.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
that is just so unbelievably frustrating to me. And Ric Flair in the
Ooh,
chat,
big
great
fan.
name, big fan, huge fan. Woo! Says, do you guys think the Luka trade was forced by the NBA? And I do. Like, I will
Yeah,
fully put on my conspiracy hat. I 100% do, for the reasons that Matthew said. Like, the trade happened during Super Bowl week, and no one gave a shit about the Super Bowl anymore. Everyone just couldn't believe what was happening. The Lakers need to be relevant for ESPN's validity to continue, because all they did before was circle jerk to the Lakers, and they're like, dude, you got to stop, man. Like, they suck and they have no future. 80s made of glass. LeBron's about to retire. There's no future for this team. And then the NBA, and like you said, Adam Silver is just like, hey, we're going to do something. We're going to do a couple different things. Couple different mechanics are at play here. One, we're going to give you Luka Doncic, and the Lakers will be relevant once again. And they are. They're the second. They're the second team in the Western Conference right now. But simultaneously, you have the Mavericks organization that was bought out by, I forget the name of the family, but they're a casino family. They're a Las Vegas family. And you know what's going to happen. It's like clockwork, man. Like, one, LeBron James wants to own a part of the Las Vegas team when they come along. And my fucking Roomba's on for some reason. Do you hear that?
yeah. It's going up to the door.
Good Lord.
VIP
But
access only, buddy.
yeah, come on, get out of here. But the Mavericks are essentially, they're going to get the team that's going to go to Las Vegas. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be awarded with the franchise. They're going to sell their team and get rights to that team. So they're going to destroy a fan base in order to help the NBA, and the NBA is going to reward them with a Vegas team. That's just my guess. You talk. Yeah. I'm going to go turn off this Roomba.
I totally agree. And the other part of it, too, is I think there's a little bit of truth with Luka Doncic kind of getting his butt kicked a little bit back into, hey, can you give a shit? Because the way he was actually performing before, like, he was hurt. Obviously, he was out about a month. Luka was out about a month. And the NBA, I think, kind of just want to be like, dude, you can be the face of the league with LeBron taking a step down or taking a step back in a way with, I don't know how long Steph's going to be in the NBA now, maybe another 2 or 3 years. But these guys are just, they're not fun to watch anymore. And they were obviously the faces of the NBA. But Luka needed a kick in the butt. He needed something to kick him in the butt a little bit, right? See if this works to get him to LA to play with LeBron. Like, I know we've heard Bill Simmons and them talk about that too, but I think there's a little bit of truth behind that as well, right? He might have been a pain in the ass behind the scenes to deal with. And you know what? And I don't know if we really buy into like, hey, the timeline part, because I don't buy that at all. Mm-hmm. But it's a way to get Luka back to where he needs to be, the face of the franchise or face of the NBA in a way, to be up there with Jokic right now as one of the top 2 players in the NBA, which is possible if he gave a fuck. So obviously with the Mavericks, he did when playoff time came, like, DA kind of did back in the day, but he wouldn't care during the regular season. But this is a different kind of level, obviously, with Luka. I just think that the NBA kind of did that too, to where they're like, come on, we need him to get back to where he was before, where he was taking over, getting triple doubles every night, killing teams like that. I think that a lot more people were behind this. I think Anthony Davis knew about it. I think LeBron James knew about it before it was happening. I think Luka was the only one really that did not know anything about it, because the way Anthony Davis went to Dallas, he seemed happy. He seemed normal. He seemed like, oh, I'm away from LeBron. I'm going to do my part. I'm going to fake a groin injury so we can just tank this season and then we can get Cooper flagged. I just think there's a lot more pieces behind this, because honestly, dude, the NBA, and I was even asking my girlfriend's son, like, Was it even fun before the Luka trade? It wasn't. Like it was nice to have Cleveland and the Thunder as those two top teams to watch.
But
A lot
the
of
NBA
talent.
hates that.
Yeah, and you just can't have that. So that's what had to happen. And it's sad to say, but they had to make something happen, and that's what they did.
And again, that's the way you see it. That's the way I see it. And we'll see how the future plays out.
Yeah,
if any
go
of this comes to
Mavericks.
fruition, or if like we're just all full of shit.
Wait, do you like really quick? Do you like watching the Lakers? Like I know we hate the Lakers, but do you enjoy watching Luka and LeBron play together in a basketball sense? No,
I will say this:
sucks, but
Luka is more fun to watch in LA than he was in Dallas.
Yes,
because he isn't doing the same he's not playing the same style of basketball he was in Dallas. In Dallas, it was very isolation heavy, very slow the game down, foul bait, do all that stuff. There's a lot more ball movement right now in the facilitation, and those are the things that make Luka very a fun player to watch and a highly skilled player. Is his facilitation, the way that he can see the court, and you see that more in LA than you see in any of his time in Dallas, in my opinion.
Okay, we can move on.
Well, I was going to say, the Lakers obviously are the team that the ESPN, apparently that's the only team that they do research on, because this broadcast today was absolute hogwash. I say, Matthew, hogwash, I say, because Mark Jones, who's calling the game, does no research. You could tell this guy, they're like, hey man, you're doing the Suns game. He's like, cool, man, I'll wing it. And he goes in there and one of the first lines he says is the fact that the Suns have the third hardest schedule remaining in the NBA. It's like they have the first toughest schedule easily. And then he's calling Caleb Williams, like the quarterback for the Bears, is now playing for Dallas apparently. And he talked about Nick Richards. He's like, oh yeah, Nick Richards came over in the Nurkic trade. And it's like, no, he didn't. He came over for Kogi
within the 5 trades we had with them.
Yeah, I get that we traded everybody to Charlotte and we wanted their entire bench, but at least get your facts right, ESPN. Yeah. ESPN just continues to be this dumpster fire of a sports media company in the way that they coverage, and they have this air about them that they think that they know more or are just more skilled than than anyone around them. Like it sucks that TNT's going away when it comes to NBA, because as much as Reggie says can drive you crazy from time to time, it's not based on just foundational factual information that they're getting wrong. It's more of like the personalities that are delivering it. In this case, it's like the personalities plus the information is just wrong. It's just one of those things that just annoyed the shit out of me today.
You feel so disconnected really from the game when you're watching it through ESPN than you would watching it TNT or as like an NBC game back in the day. Like those are the two networks that I feel like I get the most like kind of just intimate like actual showing from those guys who commentate, from the halftime report, from the pregame, all of that. ESPN is just a tough watch all the way around. Like you said during the game, halftime report is total bullshit. There's nothing there. It's like 1 minute, maybe a Stephen A just saying Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and walking around. It's like, and then they go to commercial for about 10 minutes.
And him just yelling at you about something. He's like, this brother right here, he wins the MVP. And then the next day, he's just saying the same thing regurgitated about Tatum because Tatum's game's playing, or LeBron, or, well, he'll never say it about LeBron, but other players like Jokic. He's like, no one will ever beat Jokic. And then, like,
they can't finish a fucking sentence. Those guys on there, I swear, they can't finish a sentence, right? Obviously, on here, I can get away with that because this is Suns Jam Session podcast. But ESPN, I swear, these guys look so incompetent up there when they're trying to get across their point. I just can't stand to watch at times. Sorry.
Yeah, and I don't watch. I honestly don't watch.
Either. But if I'm stuck there on the couch and
I went outside and played with the dog during halftime, like because I know that one, the dog needs attention and some love, and two, I don't want to hear them their bullshit. Like bullshit. When Stephen A. and Kendrick Perkins are going back and forth about the hottest topic today, like I get it. I get why they do it. It's dumb. They take advantage of so many people's willingness to just click and take one snippet of information as truth. And like that is just the world defined today.
Yeah.
Like, oh, hey, I saw somebody said it. Must be true. I'm going to regurgitate it instead of the full story, right? Like the Kevin Durant altercation, quote unquote, that TNT with the other night was trying to sell us during the Clippers game between him and Mike Budenholzer, where if you watch the whole clip, it was just a quick 2-second interaction of them being frustrated at each other. Yeah. And then as the interaction continued, a minute and a half, 2 minutes later, and they're agreeing with each other, they're dapping each other up and going back out there. But the people see the little thing, and I wrote a whole article about that on Brightside.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, take things in context, man. And I know it's funny coming from me, somebody who overreacts to things at the end of every game, but like, emotions make smart people look stupid, and I'm here to look stupid for you, Jamsters. I'm here to throw my emotions out there after Suns wins and Suns losses, simply for your entertainment. And it's a way, personally, to utilize this forum as a therapy session, so I can take all of what I think, put in a little box, and then throw it out there, and then not think about it for the rest of the day as I prepare for my fantasy baseball draft this evening.
Dude, all right. So that altercation, I don't think you didn't have a problem with it. I didn't either. And the thing is we go both ways, where we go hard against Bud or hard against Kevin Durant about everything. I was upset when he was away from the team last year, sitting away from the bench, and he was just doing his own thing. When we see that happen and we watch the whole thing play out, but even like the first instance of someone trying to grab you and just pushing them off and you're frustrated, that's not even a big deal. I didn't even watch that game. Really, is that the game I took off? I think I took that game off. I wasn't even watching it, but I saw later on from Twitter just a clip of it. I'm like, oh, who cares? Like, that didn't bother me. I'm like, oh, get KD off this team. Like,
oh, I know.
Everyone completely overreacted to that instance. And we can go in a direction of like, hey, like, that's really bad for this team. The chemistry is going to really be fucked up in the locker room now, right? Because that's what we always talk about.
Yeah.
But honestly, that's just an interaction I feel like anybody would have in a frustrating setting like they had that one game.
In that one moment early in a game too. So
yeah,
again, there's a lot of levels to this.
Oh yeah.
But speaking of levels, talk about the leveling off of the Suns record. They have now won 30 games this season, which brings me to my first little segment, my little stat me, Dave.
Ooh, dang, stat me.
The Suns have won their 30th game this season on the 9th of March. They won their 30th game last season on the 6th of February, Matthew. Thoughts?
Just a laugh. That's it. I mean, I kind of knew that was coming compared to last year. It is crazy, though. I don't think I really talked too much about last year compared to this year. It is crazy to think about how bad we were as a fan base and how like decent our record was.
Yes.
And like now how we are, but you just can tell like the expectations ever since the championship season have been that high. So anything where you're not about 10 or 12 games above 500, you're going to actually be yelling at everybody on Twitter and just yelling at everybody in the streets, getting in car accidents and all that shit. The Suns are sucking. So
Geico commercial
expectations.
That should totally be a Geico commercial, because they always got that. It's like, the guy who was on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. You know what I'm talking about? He's like,
yeah. Adam,
whatever his name was, but he's like, you need
Sandler.
insurance for bad things that happen, like me or whatever. And he's like blowing leaves, and he'll go in a guy's car and he'll get in a car accident. It's just like, just being a Suns fan on Twitter, like as you're driving, just because that's what it feels like. It's interesting to compare this year to last year, because last year we were so frustrated with so many aspects of this team, some of them that are still translatable to today, but to completely see this. Again, a month and 3 days later, they finally hit their 30th victory. It's frustrating, but again, they did get a victory against a Dallas Mavericks team that is unbelievably depleted. No Kyrie, no Anthony Davis, no Derek Lively. There's probably 7 other guys who aren't out there. So tell me this. When was it over? When did you feel this one was over, Matthew? Was this one of those things where it was like it was over before the tip, or was it something that you needed to see aspects of the game occur? Was it late in the game? When was it over?
Yeah, I think it was totally late in the game. I think they let maybe the Mavericks go on a few runs there in the fourth where I was kind of really uncomfortable. I think a lot of it was just kind of their attempt on defense to close out on the perimeter, which is always just an issue. Transition defense. I don't think it was over until maybe 2 minutes left in the game. And that's just how I felt with this game, because I thought because of the momentum that the Mavericks had at times in this game, where they thought like, hey, if we can just get hot from 3, they're not covering us. We can go around screens or going under the screens, wide open 3. If we hit a few of these and get back into it. So I wasn't very confident in the Suns finishing this game, just because the way the Suns have been this whole year is kind of like, even when they get up and big on teams, they have a hard time just continue that momentum because they get excited about it and they stop playing defense and stop playing transition defense and let easy plays go by to the basket. It happens every game this whole season. So I just felt like this was one of those games where it was even a bigger issue than normal, just because they knew the Mavericks only had the 7 guys. Just get them tired. We'll have a chance to win in the end if it comes close. That's the mindset I thought the Suns did have the whole game. But the Mavericks, they got hot a few times, man. That's what really scared me. So I thought with 2 minutes left, I thought they still had a chance to come back and at least tie it. And I was ready to come on the pod, be like, this was the worst loss of the season, because I really kind of thought they were going to blow it. So
Yeah, see, I'm with you there, because I mean the game started and you see the opposing lineup and you see what the Dallas Mavericks are missing. And it is, I mean, it's a ton of stuff. As I mentioned, Kyrie, AD, Daniel Gafford, Jaden Hardy, Derek Lively, PJ Washington, Kai Jones. You know, all these guys are out. And the first thing that crosses my little mind is, okay, let's just see how the Suns come out in this game. And if the Suns come out with a sense of urgency, don't fall for it. Because even when those senses of urgency have occurred when we've played teams that are subpar relative to what their expectations should be, we know that the Suns can get lackadaisical and they can take their foot off of the proverbial gas pedal. But they came out in this game and it was, I wrote it down, an illegal screen on the first possession, and then the next 2 possessions were turnovers. And like right there, I'm just like, there we go. The unfocused Suns, the mentally weak Suns, the Suns that aren't always fully engaged to the level that the competition is. And what's his face? Mark Jones must have said it 80 times on the broadcast that the Dallas Mavericks are playing spirited basketball. He said spirited like 30 times on that fucking broadcast.
That for sure, yeah.
You know, but he only had to say it once, but it was true. Like, this is a team that, you know, when a dog is down and it's hurting, you have to definitely be wary of it, because it's gonna try to survive.
Yeah,
and so I'm with you right there. It wasn't until probably about 4 or 5 minutes left in the game where I finally felt like this team, the Suns, the game was over, because they turned the ball over 13 times, gave up 20 points off turnovers. And mind you, Dallas only turned the ball over 7 times. This is a team full of scrubs, and they have better ball security than the Phoenix Suns. They went 17 of 42 from beyond the arc. That's 40%. The Suns only made 10 3-pointers. And to your point, those threes are wide open. Just poor defensive rotations, overrunning plays, disconnected on defense. So while this is a victory, and that's a good thing, wins are good things because we don't own our draft pick, I still am wondering, especially with the schedule that lies before the Suns, if they stand any chance of making the play-in. And so I'll ask you that, and I'll put a poll in the chat for those who are watching along live on YouTube. Do the Suns have any chance of making the play-in your opinion, Matthew?
Yeah, and I think they're going to make it. I think the opportunity is there for them because of the Mavericks. I think if they do blow this where they can't make it, obviously it's going to come out with the cost of an injury from like Kevin Durant, Booker. I think that the schedule is definitely hard. It's worse moving forward, but this team has shown some fight to where they can kind of continue to stay close with these teams that might be towards the end of the season kind of giving up in a way to where they just kind of are locked in their seed. Like, I don't know if a lot of these teams might be like, hey, I want to be the 2nd seed or 3rd seed or 4th seed, kind of planning it out. You know how we've been doing that the past 3 or 4 years? Like, hey, we should actually fall into the 3rd seed. That way we can play blah, blah, blah. Like, I feel like maybe we're kind of past that, but if some teams are that way who are playing coming up in the West that, you know, are kind of locked into their seed, then the Suns have an opportunity to beat those teams because they might be sitting people. I just think the Mavericks are going to be that bad moving forward where they might not even be able to win one game the rest of the season. Like, it might be that bad for this team. They have been fighting, but obviously there's more of a motive to kind of get that last, to kind of get into the lottery. Be telling them like, hey, you know, if you're hurt, you got busted in the head today, you know, Powell maybe sit a few games. They might be just maneuvering their way to that. So I think the Suns have no choice unless the Portland Trailblazers do really wake up again, even though they have the injury to DeAndre Ayton and they've been playing good to where they can kind of leap the Suns. I just think that it's just impossible for the Suns to kind of duck it now. And it's so weird because I don't even know how to feel about it. You know, I want to go to the playoffs. I want to kind of have that play-in, you know, experience for the first time as a Suns fan, but I just don't know how long it's going to take until the Suns do really wake up and they can kind of get on a winning streak, or how long it's going to take for the Mavericks to be like, all right, we're just completely tanking this season. But they might both happen at the same time, and the Suns will just kind of fall into the 10th spot. And I got to go get my charger really quick because my thing's going to die. Hold on one second.
Uh-oh. All right. Well, I better talk. So I put a poll in there for all the Jamsters who are watching along live on YouTube to vote on. And if you aren't on YouTube right now, head over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@SunsJam, and you can watch the show there. And if you happen to be here, just go ahead and click a like. As of right now, this moment, 75% of Suns fans think that the Suns are going to make the play-in. And it's understandable to think that way for the reasons that Matthew stated, right? This team is going, they're trailing Dallas, and now they're a game and a half behind the Mavericks. So it makes sense that based on what we saw tonight, based on the depth that the Dallas Mavericks don't have anymore, that they're going to continue to fall in the standings. And I actually have a lunch bet with somebody at work on this, and I took no. I took no, the Suns won't make the play-in. And like tonight, almost like I felt like it fortified my reasoning, even though in a game that squeezed the standings to get us closer to the 10th seed, I felt like the same issues that this Suns team has continue to show themselves. And as we go against tough competition, Memphis tomorrow, we play Houston. And then we've got LA's this week, Sacramento's this week, who's fighting. We got Boston twice, Milwaukee twice, another OKC game. I mean, like the remaining schedule for the Suns is an absolute gauntlet. And while they've showcased that desire and that will and the characteristics that we've been pining for all season long, just a level of give a shit and a level of urgency. I think that's the best way to put it. The Suns all season, until about a week and a half ago, haven't been playing with urgency. And they've been playing with urgency, and I appreciate that, and I applaud that. But it might be too little too late. The issues that they have are on the defensive end. And unless they can all of a sudden magically lock in on defense for sustained periods of time, I can't see this team winning very many more games this season. This could be a 35-win Suns team. That's to say, I think they could go 5-13 in their final 18 games, and I think that's being generous. And if that's the case, I can't see them making.
Yeah, and also going into the playoffs, like all of these West teams, like you've seen Jaren Jackson Jr. go down. He's out for a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron last night in the Celtics game, it seemed like it was going to be a good game, but it kind of just fell off, and it obviously wasn't. It was kind of one-sided towards the end. You saw Luka having trouble with his back. You saw LeBron leave for the first time. I feel like, am I wrong that this is the first time he's left a game early for an injury, other than just continuing to quit on his team?
No, I don't. I don't know, but he's out for 1 to 2 weeks, and there's
LeBron
that infamous. Yeah, he's out for 1 to 2 weeks.
I didn't see that. Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't even see that. So there's going to be some injuries. There's going to be some guys resting. Like I said earlier, I just think that in the West, if you just know you're going to be in the 1 through 6. Then you might just be resting some guys here and there. So that's why I think they might have a chance. And I think the Suns are just good enough to beat those teams. Obviously, like tonight, they're just good enough to be a team that has only 7 guys, like in a Scottsdale, like fucking league where you just go play every Saturday. Like it's like, oh, you only have 5 guys showing up, or four guys for 3 quarters. So it's
Bob's on his way, stuck in traffic.
I remember I was playing a Scottsdale league, and there was a ref that was just grumpy as hell, old guy. And he was going back and forth with one of the players. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, this is a Scottsdale league. You guys are talking shit to each other.
It's like a rec league.
5 guys in your team. I don't know what I'm doing here. But anyways.
He just wanted to eject somebody. So he was like, hey, you don't have enough guys now.
He's just pissed because he has to do it after work or something. Or maybe his wife just cheated on him. Who knows?
Probably.
I have no idea.
Probably. And there is a sentiment that's out there. And Mark Brooks brings up this sentiment in the chat. Says, I want them to be in the playoffs because they don't own their own draft pick, and it would be just their luck to win the lottery. And I can understand that, and I can feel that. But at the same time, like, it's a shitty reason to want to be in the playoffs. Like, I just want to be in the playoffs so they don't get their draft pick, and because it is Suns luck. That would happen. I mean, the Houston Rockets would end up with like a 0.9% chance of getting a top 3 pick, and they'd get a top 3 pick. And it would just be another, hot poker knife into the side of the Suns and being twisted into us as we deal with everything that's gone wrong since the finals run ultimately came and went.
That's a good spot for Cooper Flag, though, right? Like, there's some spots where I don't want him to go. Obviously, Utah's one of them. But if like somehow the Rockets do get that number 1 pick out of this, like that would be interesting. I think I'm actually kind of in favor of them or the Mavericks getting it, just because I don't want to see Flag on some of these other teams. I just, as a Suns fan, I don't want him to be on those teams. But as an NBA fan, I feel like it'd just be better, more balanced if he was on one of those 2 teams.
Do you think he could be like a Charlotte Hornet?
If he was, then the NBA is not doing their job.
This is true.
There's no way.
How many times
should be the ones going to the Vegas or to Vegas or something like that?
How many times have the Hornets had the number 1 pick?
3 times.
Really?
I don't know. I'm guessing 3 times.
I can't think of one. That's the thing. Let's see here. Pick number once. They
Just
had
once?
it one time. 1991, they drafted Larry Johnson.
Oh,
They've had the number 2 overall pick 4 times. They've taken Alonzo Mourning, Emeka Okafor, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, and Brandon Miller. Interesting.
Right.
Only one time, and they took Larry Johnson because they always suck. So you think they'd have a few more shots at it, but it looks like they're like the Kings, right? The Kings, they're always just so close, but just not close enough. And it's like the Suns, except the one time we get it, it's the one time I didn't want it.
Who would you rather be, though? Would you rather be the Suns right now, or would you rather be the Mavericks?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'd rather be the Suns. I mean, we still have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal on our team, and although we have a ton of different issues, and they're cap-based issues, and they're things that are going to have to be addressed this upcoming offseason, I'd rather deal with our issues than, like, we have frustration with James Jones from time to time as a fan base. For the most part, he has my approval rating. But to feel like you have a general manager who's completely incompetent, that you have a new ownership that just came in and decimated your future and appears to have no care about the fan experience and how you feel as a fan versus like what Ishbia has done, and literally the exact opposite of that. And I've said it before, like, yeah, he swung big, and guess what? These things that look like they're going to be home runs are just a can of corn out to the center fielder right now. And maybe we need to focus on hitting some doubles and maybe a triple here and there in the upcoming drafts and free agency and trade market and everything that lies before the roster construction of this team. At the same time, I'd much rather have an owner like Ishbia who gives a shit, who wants to make this better, and who is doing what he can. He just has that new owner syndrome. What about you, Mavs or Suns?
I would choose the Suns, but it's kind of weird because it's like you have your guys to win a championship and it didn't work out, right? Like you're just as good as the Mavericks, barely better than the Mavericks, a team that has legit injuries to their stars and an owner, like you said, that took away Luka Doncic, right? So as a fan, I feel like I would be better off as a Mavericks fan, just because if you're looking at this roster of the Suns, you're like, how did this not work? Like, we were supposed to be an NBA champion by now or maybe next year, just leading up to it. And now it's just like, we have our guys and we can't do anything. But the Mavericks have nothing because everything was taken away by injury or just by the owner. That's why they're not winning. We're not winning even though we have our players. Like, that's just a weird thing to go through as a fan. So
yeah, it's weird, but again, I don't think it's through any fault of malicious intent by the ownership or the general manager. Like, on paper, how excited were we for this team? It just has turned out to be just a typical Arizona sports bad luck situation where every possible thing that could go wrong outside of catastrophic injury has gone wrong for the Suns. And it's puzzling and we can't understand why. And if the Suns are having an issue where it's like there's 3 aspects of the game, right? It's like offense, defense, and ball security. Like, one will always fail the Suns. If they're not turning the ball over, their offense sucks. Or if their defense is on point, all of a sudden they're turning the ball over. And it's kind of like that over and over again. So it's this strange cycle that the Suns find themselves in. And we do have options. And that's what's going to, you and I are going to be talking about that shit all off season long. And, that's why I've kind of been reticent on this podcast and writing on Bright Side of the Sun on trying to come up with solutions to fix what this team is this offseason, because even if we do make the play, and even if we get that extra game, which we'll lose, we're going to have 2 full months from April to the end of June to talk about what we think should happen come the end of June and July. And so I'm not like, I don't want this podcast, I don't want Bright Side of the Sun to turn into this continual conversation of what we can do to fix it, because there's going to be a time and a place for that conversation. But I'm also in the same boat, and I've been thinking about this recently as I'm like curled up on my bed with like dying on Friday. I'm like, I also don't want this to become a podcast of us trying to fix this team, because this team's broken and there's no fixing it. You know, I was standoffish to write a piece this week about Colin Gillespie and him getting more playing time, because I think that it's something that would be beneficial for both him and the organization long term. Brandon Dunas wrote a piece like that for Brightside. I was like, good, I don't have to write that piece because I don't want to write that piece. I don't want to sit here and talk to you every night, Matthew, and be like, hey, man, if we just got more play out of Colin Gillespie, good things will happen. They won't. This team's not going to make the fucking playoffs. So let's just sit back and kind of talk about different aspects of the team and the game, and how great it is to see Devin Booker's new shoes, and why aren't we beating Dallas by 30 like every other team, and just carry the hell on for these last 18 games. And let's enjoy what could be the last 18 games of Kevin Durant. You know, I mean,
that's true.
Seriously, like that's what this is now. This is a farewell tour to KD, because we know, unfortunately, in my opinion, and we'll get to that this upcoming offseason, this could be it for him.
Yeah, let's enjoy it, but also like let's make a little bit of a push to maybe get in the plan for a few reasons. Like, what if we go in there and we kind of upset the Wolves, right? If we play them right, if we're the 10th seed, we play them as the
There's
7th
no
seed.
fucking world where we do that. Anthony Edwards will score
If
60 on us.
Can you? I'm just saying that how much trouble they put us through, and how much they've been doing the dick sucking thing to us. Like, I want a little bit of just a little bit.
You
of
want
like
a little bit of
passion
dick
going in
sucking.
there.
It's my
Not true
turn
at
to
all.
suck that dick.
No, not true at all. I want.
But that's great though. It's our
right?
moment to turn full heel on the rest of the NBA. We become John Cena, right?
Yeah, I guess he did do that in the past few weeks, right? Is that
He did
his
it last
thing?
week.
This is the last.
He joined
I've
Rock.
been watching a lot of WWE clips on Twitter. I feel like they've done a better job ever since Vince McMahon's been gone. There's been some interesting storylines, but just really quick though on this, we beat the T-Wolves, and then we have to play like the Clippers or the Kings. If we win, it's possible where the Suns have a chance to make the playoffs. Just to say, because the game against the Clippers is just pure Harden just flopping at the end, just trying to blow the lead like he always does. You know what I mean? He always has a great first half, maybe a good third quarter, and then he can't hit shit the rest of the game.
That's what
I
happened
can
the
see
other
that
night.
happening. So here I am buying into the Suns making the playoffs and playing the Thunder in the first round. So I'm excited for that.
And
that's what
here's-
I want.
And
we bring back Kevin Durant and we just fucking suck next year.
and here's where I'm at. What is the Suns' record against the Clippers this year?
2-0.
4-0. We beat them
4-0.
4 times this season. So if we play them in the postseason,
last year.
Exactly. We beat the Wolves every game last year, and then we played them in the playoffs. We couldn't beat them once.
Yeah.
And if it comes down to a game where it's like win and you're in, and we're playing the Clippers, and we're like, ooh, we beat them 4 times, and everyone's like, hey, you feel that? A little bit of hope. Come on in, Hope. Hang out with me. Let's watch this game. We'll be down by 30 in like the second quarter, because that's just the way the Suns go. So it's like
and then Harden will blow it. That's what he does, though, right? He gets up, he talks shit going into halftime, and then he comes out and lays an egg, and the Suns come back and win. I don't know. I like the weather out and stuff when it's like playoff time, and I want to go do a live show and stuff like that at some bar.
Yeah,
like
this
we
is
always
true.
do. Like that's the fun part with Suns Geek in town. Like I'm looking forward to that. I don't want this team to be back together next year, no matter what happens. Even if we win a championship, I don't want KD and this team to come back because he's just gonna be pissed off, right? No, I think if they win a championship, I'll want him back.
No, if they win a championship, like
he wouldn't come back.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I will be monitoring for the remainder of the season. This is one of those dumb things that I typically monitor, and that is chasing chambers. All right, you know about my chasing chambers thing, right? So
27.2.
27.2, right? So 27.2 is the franchise record for the highest scoring average by a single player in a single season in Phoenix Suns history, which I did research this morning. And I guess, were you on Twitter at all today?
No, I was
All right,
not.
perfect. Then you won't see the answer.
You know what time it is.
Trivia time.
All right, so here's a fun one for you. So as I mentioned, Tom Chambers, 27.2 points per game in the 1989-90 season. That is the all-time single season scoring average by a player in Phoenix Suns history. I went through and I did every team in the NBA and who is their top season average guy, right? Where in the NBA do you think that 27.2 ranks against all 30 franchise? Where do the Suns fall? All right. From the top or the bottom? Tell me.
I want to say they're like 21st in the league, something like that. 21st to 22nd.
All right. So 21st, 22nd. I had it up and I could tell you who that was, but then I took it down because I saved all this stuff on like a spreadsheet, if you will. They're 26th. 27.2 is the fourth lowest best single season scoring average, if that makes sense to anybody.
No, it totally makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense
Yeah.
to me.
So the teams that have worst scoring averages by a player, go for it. That'd be great.
There's 3 of them, right?
Yep, there's 3 teams. And
3
one of
of
them
them
is going down this year because they have a player who's currently averaging over that point per game.
Okay, I'm going to say Portland as one of them.
Portland is incorrect. Damian Lillard averaged 32.2 points in 22-23.
Problem, dude. Oh, OKC was one of them.
OKC is not one of them.
Oh,
Kevin Durant averaged 32 points per game in 2009/10, and SGA is actually going to pass that 32. So the 3 teams who have a worse single season scoring average player, right behind us at 26.8 points per game, Glenn Rice for the Charlotte Hornets, 96-97. Ja Morant, 26.2 for the Memphis Grizzlies in 22-23. And then this one will be surpassed by Anthony Edwards this year. Minnesota. Can you guess who the all-time leader in points per game in a single season is for Minnesota, knowing that Ant Edwards is going to break it this year?
Is it KG or Stephon?
Neither.
Okay.
It's Kevin Love.
Oh, Kevin Love. Okay.
Kevin Love in 2013-14, 26.1. That's the league low right now. So
26 and 20 rebounds.
So with all that said, one of the things that I do is I track to see kind of where current players are. And Kevin Durant right now is averaging, let's see here, 26.9 points per game. And Devin Booker is at 25.9. He's at 26. So 26.9, 26. Devin Booker over the remaining 18 games needs to average 31 points per game, 31.1 to break TC's record of 27.2, and KD needs to average 28.3 points per game over the last 18. Now, obviously, if they miss a game, that's gonna increase that metric. Fun shit, huh?
Yeah, no, it's incredible, and I feel like it's still not going to be broken. It's just
I don't think so.
Isn't that crazy?
And for those of you who go and you look at Devin Booker's averages, he averaged like 28.2 one year, I believe, or 20 or something like that. But he only played in 53 games that year, and you have to play in 55 for it to qualify.
I just feel like the way the Suns are kind of trending too right now, where you have Booker, he's kind of been more dominant now with the ball. He seems like he's kind of the leader, like the alpha on the team in a way, where he's just kind of taking a lot more shots. He's kind of setting everybody else up. And it seems like KD's kind of taking a little bit of a step back a little bit, right? The shot attempts, all that kind of seems
a couple games,
yeah. Yeah, it seems like that. So it's kind of like maybe they're heading in a different direction where they're trying to move the ball more, get everybody else involved first early in the game, the first half. Then KD and Booker can come in. Well, I think KD's been more of this guy where he's just coming in the second half and kind of taking over, saving his energy and trying to finish teams out, which I kind of like that. But when that's happening, it's like, well, are these guys going to ever get over 35 points a game again, right? I think Booker's the one guy I feel like I can count on to get those 30-plus points per game more than KD right now. So, but Booker has a bigger hill to climb. So
100%. And he's got and I feel like if anyone's going to break that record, it will be Kevin Durant because of how efficient he is in the way that he scores. You know, saw it again tonight, the way that he played, 8 of 15 from the field for 21 points. Like you said, kind of taking a step back in the offense, but he had 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 6 turnovers, 1 block shot. Nothing crazy, but it was Booker taking the majority of the shots. He was 10 of 21 to get his 24 points. Do you want to guess the top 3 franchises and the players who did it?
Yeah, could I do Houston with James Harden?
That's third overall.
Third.
James Harden, 2018-19, 36.1 points per game.
I'm gonna say Kevin Durant with the Warriors,
Negative.
or is it Steph Curry?
Warriors. Where is Golden State?
Curry, huh?
Golden State. Where the fuck is Golden State? They're here somewhere. GSW. Why can't I find you? Why can't? Oh, Golden State's number one. That's like I'm looking all over the place. They're number one, but it was Wilt Chamberlain, 50.4 points per game.
I was just gonna say Wilt Chamberlain. So, and I forgot it was with the Warriors. So the second one would be, I want to say, could I say Shaq with the Lakers?
Incorrect. Shaq, or the Lakers all-time number one dude is Kobe Bryant, 34. Okay. It's Michael Jeffrey Jordan, 37.1 points in 1986-87. So shout out to Juan Carlos Arenado, who said Bulls, and he did notice, and Juan Carlos also pointed out the three teams that are behind the Suns are franchises that are created after 1988.
Oh,
way to go, Suns! Too. And then there's the Suns, So,
isn't it crazy to have KD come here and he's not able to break that record, but he's had phenomenal years with the Suns statistically wise. And I just want to think, like, when he leaves, and if he leaves after this season, if we don't make the playoffs, like, it just kind of sucks because of how just bad the relationship was between everybody with the whole situation here. And I wish some way they would have just mend and we can kind of get okay in the end and we can be all right with each other. But I just feel like it's going to be such an ugly breakup to where we just couldn't appreciate obviously who he was and what he was trying to do here in Phoenix. Right. You know, I think it's a typical Suns way, and that's just the way it was going to always be. I just wish, that's why I kind of hope for a good ending to the season where we can maybe get in the playoffs and make something happen, because I don't want this to go to waste like it always fucking does. That's the most disappointing part.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, when you think of Kevin Durant on the Suns, there's no doubt in my mind that he is the greatest single basketball player to ever wear our colors. I mean, he's a top 15 of all-time NBA player. And there's no one else who's ever played for Phoenix who's higher than him on the list, other than Shaq, I guess. Shaq you'd have up there too. And we will see how it all ends. We will see how this chapter and this relationship comes to a close. And you and I have a part in saying how it will be remembered, because we've been somebody who are standing here on the sidelines. We have a podcast. We write about these things. But my hope is appreciation. I hope that there's an appreciation for what Durant has done while he's been here. Because again, to me, I think that so much of this has been how the front office has fumbled the cast around him, primarily the Bradley Beal trade. And like, that's how I'll always remember this era is Bradley Beal, great guy, wrong guy to bring into this team or to fortify Book and Durant. And I'll always believe that. And there's no other narrative in my head that could have changed that. So we'll see. But it is kind of crazy to me also that when we were doing Chasing Chambers last year, both Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, if either of them had scored just 10 more points on the season, they would have broken TC's record. They were that close. They both ended at 27. Like, I think Booker was 27.06 points, and KD was 27.06 and 27.09 for KD. They were so close to that 27.
So close.
It's 27.17. That is the actual number. 20, if you want to take it down a decimal point, 27.17 is what Tom Chambers scored all the way back in 1990.
Where's Beal in all this? How close was he?
I should.
I'm sure he's averaged 13.4 points as a Sun.
Oh my God, I could probably crunch those numbers real quick. Like, just copy this, paste this. Like, so how many points did he end up having today? Do you know that off the top of your head?
I think he had 18,
and he had like 11.
19.
Oh, hey, well, slow down there, guy. So that means he had 19. Okay, so that means he had 796.
Oh, so he's averaging
so far this season. So 18. 19 plus 796, and he's played in how many games? This was game number 45 for him. So he needs to average in the last 18 games.
Could I guess?
Oh, please.
Oh, I was going to get 66.
No.
30, what? 39?
Well, he's averaging, if this is correct, let me just double check this on Basketball Reference. Is he averaging, oh, that can't be right, 17.5?
17.5 this year, yeah.
17.5.
Worst field goal percentage, worst 3-point percentage, worst free throw percentage, worst efficiency rating.
Yeah, something's off. Oh, I gave him accidentally 200 extra points. Okay. All right, so what's your final guess?
I was going to say 39.
He needs to average 49.9 points per game over the last 18 games to break
To beat it.
to
That's
break
the only
Tom
way the
Chambers'
Suns win a
record.
championship, if he just becomes unstoppable and scores 50 points a game.
50 points a game. there you go.
The Suns Jam Session Subreddit Stakeout.
Yes, I was there asking where is
He's
she?
back.
In
That
Dallas today. This is the mask that Nico Harrison should be wearing every game.
Nico Harrison looks like a good Batman.
The eyebrows. It's all on the
Doesn't he?
brows.
But here's what the Dallas fans had to say on their subreddit. Come on, Suns. Please put aside your incompetence for this game and win.
They're all about getting to the lottery over there in Dallas.
How quickly things
It
change.
was a
Fuck.
miserable subreddit, by the way.
I'm surprised anybody goes to the games. How do they get anybody to buy tickets?
It's got to be like Make-A-Wish Foundation stuff. In all
Or they're
honesty,
just- yeah,
they're
they're just
giving
drones.
away. They're giving away.
Battle between the worst run organizations in the league. Holy fuck, the Suns are ass.
That's them calling us ass.
I'm only going to assume all these people in the stands for this game are just there to see what Katie looks like. Considering Nico is going to trade every positive asset, young player, draft pick, etc. we have to get him this summer.
I feel like everyone goes, to go see Bobo too. So
Yeah, 100%.
Beal had more steps than AA on that play.
That's an all-timer.
that's a good one.
Competition of who can be more shit. Only 163 comments on a nationally televised game on a Sunday afternoon against one of our most hated rivals. This franchise is generally so fucking cooked.
Do you think anybody was suicidal after the trade? You think anybody went through with it as a fan?
I don't know if anyone went through with it, but I
I
definitely
think we would have
there's
heard
some,
about it, huh?
Yeah, I definitely think there were
Yeah.
some people who definitely reached some dark places in their mind.
Yeah. Shout out to
And then the last one I had, because this was a lot of them just railing Nico, talking about how he's going to trade this, that, the other. But the last one, and I've always liked this one.
Din shitty.
The Suns Jam Session Subreddit Stakeout.
Dipshitty. I like that one too.
Jam star of the game.
Who you giving the jam star to? We didn't talk about any players.
We didn't, but I'm gonna give it to Grayson Allen tonight. I think. I
Okay,
think he had
Porke.
some kick-ass plays today. I think around the
17
rim.
points.
How many times was he on his butt after just laying it in? Like he was getting pretty high tonight. He had a good dunk last game, and he was finishing at the rim. I think a couple times tonight, but he looks like he's kind of a little bit back when he's being a little bit more aggressive, which you want to see from Grayson Allen. Still one of my favorite players, and he's not. If you listen to the Bill Simmons podcast on the contract draft,
Yeah.
put him on there. I was kind of shocked. I'm like, he was incredible last year. It's just this year he's not using the same way. Like, I think that's a good contract for him. I love Grayson Allen still. I don't care how many bad games he has. It's not
I think
his fault.
it's a good contract for him. It's a great one for the Suns because it's a tradable asset. Like you need that kind of contract on your roster. So eat a dick, Bill Simmons.
Whoop.
I'm going to give this one to Kevin Durant's right there, and he looked good. Booker, I felt, was kind of pressing. 0 for 6 from beyond the arc from Booker, so he's not going to get it.
Fuck.
Bradley Beal was 7 of 10, but I kind of felt like he disappeared a lot.
Yeah.
I'm going to give this one to Plumlee. Why not? Mason Plumlee. 13
Like-
points, 5 of 6.
Killing it.
What's interesting about Plumlee is they're finally using him and the way that they're using the opposing defense, and we've seen this the last couple of games, they're using opposing defenses' willingness to overhelp on Booker and Durant to create space for Plumlee, and he's executing. And that's an improvement.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
And
something
Richards,
to be
they've
proud
done
of.
a good job. I think Richards too, like he has the options to pass out and stuff. He's been kind of a little bit limited in that way because he's obviously not a really good passer, but they give him opportunities to kind of continue the offense, be a connector in a way at times. And those guys are kind of stepping up now. I know I don't even want to get into the matchups and stuff, but just to see those guys be competent, like back to back games, it's pretty nice.
Agreed.
Some of the worst centers in the league, but we're figuring it out.
We're finally figuring it out with 18
Rotation,
games to go. All right, up next for the Suns, they play tomorrow, 5 p.m. Arizona time. Memphis Grizzlies, the team that has the top pace in the league.
Really?
Yeah, they are the fastest pace in the league. And this is the second night of a back-to-back for us and them. What do you think? We win this one? We compete this one?
I think the Suns win. I think Memphis, the pace thing might be because the schedule was so easy to start the season. I think we talked about this a little bit back because I picked Memphis to win the championship this year. I'm a little off maybe. They've been slipping. They've been sliding down the standings now that the Lakers and Nuggets are kind of taking over. I think they're the 4th seed now. They are having a hard time really just connecting their offense. Like I've been watching them. They've been on TV, I feel like almost every fucking night. Jaw's not the same player. I don't know when he's going to step up and be that guy. They don't have Jaren Jackson Jr., who I think is obviously he was their best player this year.
Yeah.
This is a chance, I think, for the Suns to win. And only because I feel like the at times this Memphis team can be incompetent, but also there are times when Ja can finish the game. He can come in and have an incredible fourth quarter, and he can make some big shots around the rim, get to the free throw line. But I just can count on the Suns really playing with a high energy this game because these games obviously mean a lot. But they can get into a situation where they have the game down the line where they're up 5 or 6 with about a minute left. And I think they can kind of complete the game in a way to where KD can hit a big shot to ice the Grizzlies, but also it can go the other way. So I think that the Suns can get them in a good spot in the fourth quarter where they are playing with all that energy and playing great defense. Maybe Ryan Dunn gets some minutes this game. There's a spot where Devin Booker can go for 30, and there's a place where obviously Kevin Durant can get 30 points on this team. They're just not the same Grizzlies team as before. It's because the competition is getting a little bit more high. The stakes are higher. So Suns have an opportunity here, man. I'm actually going to go for a victory for sure. I've had a lot of caffeine, man.
Look at you with your optimism.
I
appreciate that.
I don't trust this Grizzlies team. I just don't trust them. That's why. So,
and I don't trust this Suns team. It's
oh yeah, I forgot about that part.
It's the second night of a back-to-back. This team plays with pace. They might have youth. Yes, they're down people, but at the same time, it's just, like this is a classic. Bet the Suns to win the first half and bet the Grizzlies to win the game situation, because I can see that. I can see the Suns, for all the reasons you said, winning that first half. And in the second half, the energy levels won't be there. The legs won't be there. And the Grizzlies are playing the Pelicans today. So they're on the second night of a back-to-back as well. But they're younger, they're faster, they're more aggressive. And I think that they win. So we'll see. We'll see.
We will see. It's exciting. You know, you don't like to watch the Suns, but they're going to play a lot of great opponents coming up. So you can't.
There's a lot. That is a good point.
Yeah, it's going to be some good competition. So I don't know. I'm excited for this one.
All right.
5 o'clock start. Nice.
I'm excited as well because it's a 5 o'clock start.
Yeah.
And I'm also covering this one for Brightside. So I have to think about what
I thought it was me, but I got the next one. The Bucks, they play next Wednesday?
No, they play somebody better.
Oh, no. I forgot already.
I do too. I literally was just putting things together. They play Houston. Houston is, and then nobody signed up for the Friday game, so it looks like I'm doing that.
Friday?
Yeah, the Kings game.
Oh.
Word. All right. On that note, Jamsters, subscribe, rate, review. Thanks for hanging out with us. Hope you liked the conversation. Hope you liked watching. That's all I have.
All right, yeah. Everyone go home with your family, everybody.
Go home and write your recap.
Hey, you're listening to the Suns Jam Session podcast, shooting the shit about the Suns since 2019.